Anthony Englund, our final speaker for today, is Group Manager, Investment Strategy and Solutions at Transgrid. In this role, he leads Transgrid's strategic decisions in both network and non-network investments. Anthony has more than 15 years of experience in the electricity sector, with particular expertise in policy and regulation. In 2013, he was awarded the Energy Networks Association's Industry Contribution Award in recognition of his ongoing commitment to the industry. Please join me in welcoming Anthony.
Thanks, Katie. And that kind of bio takes me back to Perfect Match in the 1980s with Greg Evans and Dexter the Robot. I feel morally obliged to say that I also like windsurfing, raging and having a good time. Non-network solutions. All right. So non-network solutions are really about meeting our customers' electricity needs without building more network assets. There's really two kinds. There's the traditional sorts of non-network solutions that we've dealt with in the past, so contracting generators to help us with some network support from time to time, or contracting demand management on the load side to temporarily reduce that load to defer some network capex, usually historically through an intermediary. But there's also a different kind that's emerging, and this is touching on some of the questions that have just popped up. There's a new wider range of non-network applications based on new technologies. We've all been hearing about them for the last few years, and they're a really interesting piece of the puzzle for the future. And the sorts of things I'm talking about are, you may have a setup where you integrate the grid with some storage, some local generation, and some smarts to reduce a particular customer load. Perhaps as a transmission entity, working with our customers and our distributor colleagues, using some kind of automated demand response to actually manage load a bit more remotely, a bit more effectively. When we're talking about storage, we can bring it back up to the grid level to talk about smoothing out network constraints, helping intermittent generation like wind farms sail through or be able to deliver effectively, or even the very bleeding edge, which is using something like grid storage to do arbitrage in the wholesale market, very cutting edge stuff. All sorts of possibilities, and all those new applications based on those new technologies are about powering the future differently, in a smarter way. They will each, in the right times, in the right places, make their contribution to a much more complex and dynamic and frankly interesting energy supply chain. So it's a bright future for all of us, including networks. What those traditional solutions and those emerging solutions have in common is that they help us as a transmission business ensure that we've got the right sized, fit-for-purpose grid to meet our customers' needs in the most cost-effective way. And we're, as the slide says, I should get to the slide, we're strongly committed at Transgrid to making those non-network solutions where they're technically feasible and commercially sensible. And we've got a pretty good track record of doing so. So a number of our previous speakers have talked about the Powering Sydney's Future project. And we spent a fair amount of time in the last couple of years looking for options to defer that network build. We ended up finding about 40 megawatts of demand management we thought would be feasible to actually push that capex out. As Peter said at the outset, the load moderated enough that we could save the money elsewhere, but we were very satisfied with the early results that we got, and we want to continue doing that kind of work. So where are we right now based on the 10-year planning cycle of the TAPA forecast? Well, it is fairly flat, moderate load growth kind of stuff. Now that's a good environment for a demand management application because you tend to get better bang for your buck out of that sort of moderate stuff. You get your money back, the piece of work can last a bit longer. And non-network solutions also tend to be a little bit more granular and bespoke, a bit closer to the customer end. So it's actually not a bad environment for those sorts of things. The downside, of course, is that, as you would have picked up from Nalan's presentation, we've actually got relatively few pinch points on the network right now. And so we're not seeing a clear need for non-network solutions at the moment. But help us out. If there are things there that you think we're missing, please tell us, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as I get into the presentation. So that's kind of a status quo for the next little bit. What about engaging with that bright future I was just talking about a minute ago? Well, let's be clear, the non-network solutions market is an emerging market. It's still got a ways to go. It's not quite deep enough. It's not providing that full range of solutions that perhaps some people would like. But we are also committed at Transgrid to helping that market grow because we think having that wider range of solutions available to our customers is in their interests as well as ours. So I'm going to spend the rest of my presentation talking about some of the things we've done recently to help that market develop and some of the things that we plan to do about it. And I'll pick a couple of highlights for each. There are three broad categories. So market understanding and development, which is about sharing information on resources and opportunities. We like getting our hands dirty at Transgrid, so we're also trialling a bunch of technologies. And the third part is a broader collaboration piece, which is really about setting the right kind of policy environment to help non-network solutions thrive and grow. So first, market understanding and development. I'll just pick out one highlight here. So some of you might be aware of the Institute of Sustainable Futures Network Opportunity Maps project. We're heavily invested in that, participating in it. It's an ARENA-funded piece in addition, so it's got a good set of dollars and some good technical nous behind it. And what it's about is developing a really good set of online maps across the NEM for identifying network constraints. Those maps will be freely available, and the intention is to update them annually. And they're going to highlight planned investments, the potential value of renewable energy, as well as some demand-side options and some decentralised generation stuff. It's going to be a really good resource for everybody to use. It'll show you the hotspots, it'll show you where you might want to place your dollars to help customers get a more cost-effective solution. I haven't got a version I can show you. I've seen the draft maps that ISF have put together and they're looking pretty good. It gives you that kind of sub-electrical network look at things. And there's a lot of promise there, and there's actually a lot of widespread support across the industry for it, so it should be a really good tool for people to use. Currently, sample maps should be out to the wider ARENA, available to people to start having a look at late this calendar year, but so far it's a pretty good project, and we're really happy to be part of it. The next piece are technology trials. So three things to talk about here. The first one is, as most of you know, about an hour west of here is our Walgrove site. It's about 300 people, peak demand of around 300 kilowatts. So got ourselves a couple of pieces of integrated systems happening. 400 kilowatt hours of lithium polymer batteries, about 100 kilowatts of solar PV, some energy efficient lighting in our office buildings there, the grid connection and some operating smarts all pulled together. I think it's been up and running for about a year or thereabouts. It's been a really interesting learning experience putting that system together and running it. In terms of quick takeouts, we've been able to reduce our peak demand by about half, so the batteries and the PV run pretty well together in the afternoon. The batteries will charge up overnight and discharge by themselves in the morning. It's been quite productive. But the best part of it is that we've had a lot of learnings in the smarts. We're starting to understand, just in small ways initially, how you actually leverage the battery discharge, the battery life cycle profile, how you get best bang for buck in terms of where you place those batteries sort of in a grid situation. And the interesting part for you guys is that we really want to share that experience. If you go and hop on our website, there's a portal there where you can see the thing operating in real time, showing you when we're taking off the grid and when we're not, when we're relying on the PV and the batteries. The historic data's up there, it's all running live. And the other aspect is that we want to, and we're just starting to get in the process of establishing partnerships with academics and other interested players to experiment with iDemand, to play with the system, to experience the learnings, and hopefully we'll share all the results with that. We're planning to share all the results of that moving forwards. So it's a really good commercial site trial. It's one of the first that's been done in the country, and we're really excited about its potential for the future. That takes me on to our grid storage project, which is something we're just starting to get close to now. So we're interested in taking the learnings out of iDemand and playing with them at larger, differing scales. We also want to look at that range of, to the best we can with the budgets we've got, range of technologies and applications to see what can be done. And I'm referring to those things I talked about earlier, such as intermittent generation smoothing or automatic demand response for particular customers, commercial and industrial kind of scale. Obviously, there are some challenges associated with bringing things up towards a transmission level when you're dealing with grid storage. First one is operational, matching the technologies to the applications in a way that will fully meet a customer's needs. I try and not put up a picture of Elon Musk in these sorts of presentations, but it's inevitable we'll come back to talk about the guy. It's great to see things like Powerwall for residential houses and that kind of thing, but we all know that the batteries will last about 4 days when it's cloudy. So it's really important that when you're thinking about applications, you've got to make sure that technology is actually going to deliver. So that's kind of an operational dimension. For a demand management application, obviously as you scale up from an individual customer site, you're getting that flatter load profile, and so that makes it difficult to find those peak savings as effectively when you're playing at a major transmission level. So that's an interesting challenge as well. And the third one is the obvious one. The economics for battery storage aren't quite there yet. They will get there, but they're not quite there at the moment, despite Elon's gigafactory and Warren Buffett's Chinese venture. The costs are coming down on batteries and other storage technologies, but they're still at the moment probably about twice what you'd pay for demand management solutions, so they've got a little ways to travel. Don't get me wrong, we're very interested in this space. We just need to think carefully about how we help bring it to fruition. And it's probably fair to say in that respect that for grid storage projects, there's no one application that will get you across the investment line. Rather, it's probably more sensible to stack those benefits and find ways to make sure that those particular benefits from particular applications can find their way to the sweet spots within the supply chain. There are ways of doing that, and again, it's something we're interested in exploring at TransGrid. And again, that's just rational because it brings you back to that piece I talked about earlier, which is that more diverse and interesting supply chain that's sort of rapidly looming for all of us in the industry. Last point to touch on in the technology space is we'd really like to help you guys with your ideas. We'd like to work with you to see if maybe there's a space on our network where you can bring your gear in, set it up, hook it up, and run. Do some more of that learn by doing stuff that we're excited about. So please, come and talk to me or any of the TransGrid team at the end of this, and we can find ways to help. All right. The last of the three things I wanted to talk about was collaboration. So for the past couple of years at least, we've been running a demand management information forum, which is about non-network solutions more broadly. And it's about engaging a wider range of stakeholders than the typical few. Kind of got legs out of our Powering Sydney's Future project when we started to bring in local government as well as federal and state government, not just suppliers, but consumer reps and commercial industrial customers, getting that critical mass of stakeholders together so that we could really share experiences and learnings, find out what the challenges were, bust some myths, hopefully plan to remove some roadblocks in terms of what we can do with non-network solutions. And at TransGrid, we've got a particular focus on this as a network business because we really want to help ensure through that kind of collaboration, that kind of conversation, that there's the right policy and regulatory environment for non-network solutions getting an appropriate space in the whole mix. At the moment, transmission businesses in particular, I'll cry poor here, we aren't particularly well incentivised to do non-network stuff. And so there are some changes that we'd probably like to see to help people in that space if we're to try and help grow the market. And the other part, of course, is that the roles for everybody in the supply chain, generation through to retail, are pretty carefully prescribed at the moment. And if we're moving into that much more dynamic and integrated future, those rules are going to probably have to soften so that we can each find those right sweet spots to provide our value add. So there are some really useful conversations coming out of forums like the one that we run to actually help with that. Now, some of you in the room will be aware that the COAG Energy Council and some of the industry associations are turning their minds to those sorts of things. But if that change is going to work, it's going to have to be a deeper and wider conversation involving as many of you as possible to make those changes work effectively and fast enough so that we can get in there and make that future happen. If we are to power that future differently, and if we're to deliver that maximum possible value to our customers, TransGrid has to remain committed to non-network solutions, and it's part and parcel of our BAU. Happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. What we might do is ask our speakers to the stage, and we may just jump straight into the panel Q&A. Now, I know you've been saving your questions